That house belongs to this family. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law stalked me, ruined my wedding, then demanded our home. The phone rang at exactly 7:15 a.m. Diana's precision timing as predictable as her rage. I let it ring twice, taking a deep breath before answering. My mother-in-law's voice sliced through the morning quiet like a serrated knife. That house belongs to this family, Olivia. You and Alex are living there because of our generosity. I bit my tongue until I tasted metal. 5 years of marriage, and Diana still acted like we were squatters in our own home, the home we'd been paying mortgage on for 3 years. Alex shot me a pleading look from across the kitchen, his eyes already apologizing for the battle I was fighting alone. Diana, we've discussed this. The house is in our names, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. My son would never cut his family out like this. This is your doing. The familiar accusation. Everything was always my doing. I was the serpent in her garden, the witch who'd enchanted her precious boy. Alex had been the golden child, Diana's emotional husband, Sophia's protective brother, and Michael's pride. Then I came along and disrupted their perfect, twisted dynamic. Sophia would be next to call, right on cue. Alex's sister, permanently installed in her parents' home with her husband Kevin, who contributed nothing but criticism between his marathon gaming sessions. The incident with the locked door still made my skin crawl. We'd finally installed a lock after Sophia had walked in on us in bed for the third time. Her reaction, pounding, screaming, calling me a manipulative whore who was turning brother against sister, had been so disproportionate that even Alex was stunned. Her justification, siblings shouldn't have secrets, revealed the sickness at the heart of these relationships. Alex had apologized to her. That's what haunts me most. He'd apologized for our privacy. Michael, my father-in-law, was the only tolerable one, a quiet man beaten down by decades of Diana's dominance. He occasionally offered sympathetic glances but never stood up to his wife or daughter. My nightmares were always the same. Diana and Sophia dismantling our home brick by brick while Alex watched, paralyzed with indecision. I'd wake gasping, wondering how long I could endure being the family scapegoat. As I hung up the phone, Alex approached cautiously. Was that Mom? The real question hung between us. Was I strong enough to demand boundaries? Was he brave enough to enforce them? Our marriage balanced on the answer. The worst moments always happened when Alex wasn't around. Sophia would transform, her sugary smile melting into something venomous. You know, Jennifer was so much prettier, she said casually one afternoon while helping me prepare dinner for a family gathering. Alex's college girlfriend, she clarified unnecessarily. Such beautiful, natural blonde hair. Your color's from a bottle, right? I chopped carrots with more force than necessary. Alex seems to prefer brunettes now. Her laugh was like glass breaking. For now, my brother gets bored easily. These jabs had become routine. Little poison darts designed to make me doubt myself, my relationship, my place in Alex's life. And when I finally started pushing back, Sophia would look genuinely shocked, as if she couldn't believe I'd defend myself. Alex's ex's family invited him to their lake house every summer, even after they broke up, I mentioned once, matching her saccharine tone. They were so much more welcoming than some families I've met. The look of surprise on her face was almost worth the inevitable aftermath, her tearful confession to Alex about how mean I'd been, conveniently omitting her own provocations. Diana's tactics were more sophisticated. At family dinners, she'd speak around me, through me, about me, never to me. I was a ghost at the table. When forced to acknowledge my existence, she'd mention my private school education with thinly veiled contempt. Not all of us had such privileged upbringings, of course. What hurt most was knowing what she whispered to Alex when I wasn't there. I'd overheard her once, standing outside the kitchen door at their house. She's not right for you, sweetheart. You deserve someone more grounded, less pretentious. When we announced our engagement, the facade collapsed entirely. Diana called me directly, her voice eerily calm. Return the ring, Olivia. You're not what he needs. Sophia was less restrained. You're nothing but a gold digger. I have dirt on you that would make Alex run before the wedding. It was empty. I had no skeletons, but the threat itself was chilling. Even at our engagement dinner, Diana raised a toast with the unsettling declaration that she hoped I'd be half as devoted to Alex as she had been. Alex squeezed my hand under the table, but said nothing. When we declined Diana's offer to pay for the wedding, knowing the control it would buy her, I thought she might actually combust with rage. For once, Alex stood firm, a tiny victory in our ongoing war for independence. But victories were always temporary. I discovered they were holding family meetings without me. Just blood relatives, Diana explained when I confronted her. Rumors circulated about my intentions, my character, my past. Cousins I'd never met regarded me with suspicion at gatherings. Last week, I overheard Sophia on the phone. "We need to show Alex who she really is. Mom has a plan." Those words keep me awake at night. How far would they go? What lines wouldn't they cross? And would Alex finally see the truth before it was too late? 3 weeks before our wedding, Sophia texted that she was bringing takeout for dinner. Not asking. Telling. Alex was thrilled, oblivious to my dread. "She's making an effort," he insisted. Dinner was tense but bearable until Sophia deliberately steered the conversation toward infidelity. "Did you hear about Jake from accounting, cheating on his wife with some intern?" She sighed dramatically. "Some people just can't be trusted." I should have seen it coming, the calculated segue. Her eyes fixed on mine as she reached for her purse. Speaking of trust, she slid photos across the table. Me with my colleague Hui at lunch, walking to a coffee shop, talking beside his car after a work event. All innocent moments captured from a distance, framed to look furtive. "I didn't want to be the one to show you this, Alex, but..." "What the hell, Sophia?" Alex's voice startled us both. "Why are you following my fiancé?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I was protecting you. I had a feeling..." I found my voice. "These are all from work events. Hui is a married colleague and gay. You're actually stalking me?" "Not stalking," she stammered. "Investigating." "That's a crime," I said, surprising myself with my calm. "Harassment, stalking, defamation. Should I call my lawyer, or would you prefer to apologize and never pull something like this again?" The color drained from Sophia's face. It was the first time I'd seen real fear in her eyes, not because she felt remorse, but because she faced consequences. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not meeting my gaze. "I was concerned." Alex escorted her out, returning with a shell-shocked expression. I knew she was protective, but this is insane. The photos were just the beginning. A week later, Diana called to graciously offer to pay half our wedding costs, after we'd declined her previous offer to pay for everything. "It's too much for you two," she insisted. "It would break my heart to see you start married life in debt." "We've saved enough," Alex replied firmly. "We want to do this ourselves." Her voice cracked with theatrical sobs. "My son doesn't need his mother anymore." Michael, surprisingly, called later to congratulate us. "I'm proud of you both. Standing on your own feet is important." Against our better judgment, we compromised by letting Diana host the rehearsal dinner. "It means so much to me," she said with uncharacteristic warmth. I should have trusted my instincts. The elegant dinner Diana had promised was held in a dreary banquet room with plastic tablecloths and cold Mexican food that had clearly been sitting out for hours. Diana herself was 3 martinis in before the first guests arrived, loudly complaining about the burden of hosting. "Do you know what it's like?" she slurred, cornering my mother. "Trying to welcome someone who's stealing your son?" My father looked ready to intervene when Michael finally guided Diana outside. "She's not feeling well," he explained to shocked guests. It wasn't an excuse anyone believed. Sophia attempted damage control. "Mom's just emotional about losing Alex." Michael, in a moment of unexpected backbone, cut her off. "That's enough, Sophia. Your mother's behavior is inexcusable." Back home, exhaustion and fear overwhelmed me. "What if they ruin our actual wedding day?" I asked Alex. "They won't," he promised, but his voice lacked conviction. For the first time, we argued openly about his family. "You have to set boundaries, Alex. Real ones." "They're still my family," he countered, frustration edging his voice. "And I'm about to be your wife," I shot back. "Who comes first?" He didn't answer. That silence terrified me more than anything Diana or Sophia had ever done. 2 days before our wedding, I faced an impossible choice. accept the risk of Diana's inevitable scene at our ceremony, or take drastic measures to neutralize the threat. Neither option promised happiness. Both guaranteed pain. As I lay awake that night, watching Alex sleep peacefully beside me, I wondered what new horror his mother and sister were planning for what should be the happiest day of our lives. I tossed and turned all night, the impossible choice weighing on me. By morning, I knew what I had to do. "We need to talk about the wedding guest list," I said to Alex over coffee, my hands trembling slightly. "What about it? Everything's finalized." I took a deep breath. "I don't think your mother and sister should be there." His coffee mug froze midway to his lips. "What? That's not possible, Olivia. After everything they've done, the stalking, the rehearsal dinner disaster, the constant undermining," my voice grew stronger with each example. "They'll find a way to ruin our day." "They're my family," he insisted, that familiar defense rising. "And I'm about to be your wife." I reached for his hand. "Alex, I've endured years of their abuse. I can't spend what should be the happiest day of our lives waiting for their next attack." His face hardened. "You're asking me to choose?" "No, they forced this choice." I felt something shift inside me, resolve hardening into certainty. "But if you need me to make it clearer, if they come, I won't." The ultimatum hung between us, heavy and irrevocable. For a moment, I thought I'd lost him. Then something changed in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, of just how much damage his mother and sister had caused. "I'll call my dad," he said quietly. Michael answered on the first ring, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. Alex explained our decision, voice calm but firm. There was a long silence before Michael responded. "I understand, son. I wish it were different." Our phones exploded minutes later. Diana's hysterical voicemails accused me of brainwashing her son. Sophia's texts were vicious, claiming I was isolating Alex, just like all abusers do. Alex silenced his phone after listening to Diana's first message. "They're proving our point," he said, a sad realization in his voice. I felt guilty about Michael, the innocent casualty who would miss his son's wedding. But this was survival, not spite. The wedding was perfect, intimate, joyful, unmarred by Diana's dramatics or Sophia's sabotage. It wasn't until a month later that we learned just how right our decision had been. Alex's cousin Jenna stopped by with a belated gift and an uncomfortable confession. "I thought you should know what they were planning." She showed us screenshots from a family women's group chat. Diana had instructed female relatives to wear white to our wedding, a petty attempt to upstage me. Sophia had enthusiastically endorsed the plan, adding her own suggestions for disruption. "Not everyone agreed," Jenna explained. "Several of us thought it was disgusting." Alex stared at the messages, the final proof of their malice. This wasn't impulsive. They deliberately planned to hurt us. The months after the wedding brought an uneasy peace. Diana and Sophia implemented a complete freeze-out, ignoring my existence while still inviting Alex to family functions. "Just come for an hour," Diana would plead. "She doesn't need to know." Alex refused every invitation. "We're a package deal now." Only Michael maintained contact, meeting us for lunch every few weeks, careful to keep our gatherings secret from his wife and daughter. "They'll come around," he assured us, though none of us believed it. For a while, I thought we'd won. We focused on our careers, saved aggressively, and eventually found our dream home, a charming Tudor with a garden I immediately filled with roses. Then Alex suggested we host a small housewarming party. "Maybe it's time to try again with my family, just my parents and Sophia. Kevin can stay home." I agreed, partly from guilt, partly from hope that time had changed things. I scheduled a visit to my parents that weekend, a coward's escape. When Alex sent me photos of Diana and Sophia touring our home, something in their expressions chilled me. They smiled for the camera, but their eyes held calculation, assessment, as if they were cataloging our happiness for future reference. "They love the house," Alex reported, relief in his voice. "Mom even asked for your pie recipe." I tried to share his optimism, but that night, I dreamed of Diana and Sophia with measuring tapes and clipboards, plotting exactly how to dismantle everything we'd built. Was this temporary peace worth the inevitable war to come? Had anything really changed, Or had we simply given them new ammunition? As I pictured them walking through our home, touching our things, judging our choices, planning their next move, I wondered if true happiness was possible with these shadows always lurking at the edges of our life. Our Tudor home represented everything we'd fought for: freedom, independence, a future built on our own terms. After years of penny pinching and career advancements, signing those mortgage papers felt like planting a flag on conquered territory. "We did this ourselves," Alex whispered as we stood in our empty living room that first day, keys still warm in our hands. No loans from Diana, no strings attached, just our names on the deed. The house needed work, outdated kitchen, peeling wallpaper in the upstairs bathroom, but it was ours. We spent weekends painting, installing cabinets, turning the blank canvas into home. With each improvement, I felt the foundation of our marriage strengthening too. 3 months in, Alex suggested the housewarming. "Mom seemed different at Christmas," he insisted. "More reflective." I agreed to the party but scheduled my convenient escape. The coward's way out, perhaps, but self-preservation isn't always brave. When my phone lit up with Diana's number 2 days after their visit, I nearly dropped it in shock. We hadn't spoken directly in almost 2 years. "Olivia, dear," her voice oozed artificial warmth. "What a lovely home you have." "Thank you, Diana." I kept my tone neutral, professional. "So much space for just the two of you." The barb landed precisely where intended. "I suppose you had hoped to fill those extra bedrooms by now." My infertility wasn't something we discussed publicly. Alex had obviously confided in his mother during one of their private conversations, and she'd weaponized it instantly. "We're quite comfortable," I managed. "Sophia's expecting again," she continued, triumph in her voice. "Her 6th. The doctor says it's another boy." I waited, sensing the real purpose of this call lurking beneath her small talk. "Her house is becoming quite cramped," Diana sighed dramatically. "Kevin's been struggling with steady work. You know how the economy is. 5 children and another on the way in that tiny 3-bedroom. And then it came. The request so outrageous I first thought I'd misheard. "Alex mentioned you might consider letting them take over your mortgage. It would be such a blessing for them to have your home, and you two could find something cozier, more appropriate." My brain stuttered. Alex had said no such thing, would never suggest something so absurd. "Diana, we just bought this house. We're still unpacking." "Family sacrifices for family," she replied, as if reciting scripture. "Besides, it's time to put the past behind us. This would be a wonderful fresh start." I found my voice, stronger than I expected. "We're still paying the mortgage on this house, Diana. It's not available." "Well, surely you could work something out," she pressed. "Perhaps rent it to them cheaply while you find something else?" The audacity was breathtaking. I thought of Sophia walking through our home, mentally claiming it room by room, while her unemployed husband lounged and her children ran wild. Something shifted inside me, rage transforming into calculated clarity. "Actually, Diana, there might be a solution," I said sweetly. "If you're truly concerned about Sophia's housing situation, you could help them by taking over our mortgage payments. It's only $3,200 a month. Perhaps you could pick up a second job." The spluttering on the other end was deeply satisfying. That's ridiculous. I'm retired." "More ridiculous than expecting us to give up our home for Sophia and Kevin? A man who hasn't held a steady job in, 5 years now?" Her true colors emerged instantly. "You ungrateful little, after everything I've done for you both." "What exactly have you done, Diana, besides try to sabotage our relationship at every turn?" She hung up. 20 minutes later, Sophia called, her voice shrill with indignation. "How dare you speak to our mother that way after she tried to help you?" "Help us? By taking our house for your family? That's not help, Sophia. That's theft. Kevin is between opportunities. Not everyone can be as privileged as you." "Between opportunities for 6 years? The real gold digger in this family isn't me, Sophia, it's Kevin. And now you're trying to dig in our direction." The silence that followed was revelatory. For the first time, I felt completely in control of this toxic dynamic. No more victim, no more scapegoat. When I told Alex about the calls that evening, I braced for conflict, for him to defend his family out of instinct. Instead, he laughed in disbelief. "They wanted our house for Sophia and Kevin." He shook his head. That's a new level of entitlement, even for them. The next day, Diana sent a group text announcing a family financial emergency requiring everyone's support. No mention of her rejected house heist. I felt victorious yet unsettled. The confrontation had been satisfying, but these women never stayed defeated for long. What new scheme would they devise? What vulnerability would they target next? That night, I placed protective hands over my empty womb, the battlefield Diana had already identified for her next assault. Alex returned from his business trip that evening, his face lighting up when he saw the new patio furniture I'd assembled in his absence. "I need to tell you something," I said after dinner, hands trembling slightly. I recounted the entire conversation with Diana, watching his expression morph from confusion to disbelief to anger. "She told you I agreed to give them our house?" His voice rose. "That's insane." "She seemed convinced you'd be on board." His jaw tightened. "I only told her Sophia was pregnant again, nothing about our house." He pulled out his phone immediately. "I'm calling her, right now." My heart raced as he put the call on speaker. Diana answered with sugary sweetness that curdled when Alex cut straight to the point. "Mom, why did you tell Olivia I agreed to give our house to Sophia?" A pause. "Well, I knew you wouldn't mind helping your sister. By giving her our home, the one we just bought, with 6 kids and Kevin? Your sister needs help, Alex. Michael refuses to remortgage their house to help her. Because it's not Dad's responsibility to house Sophia's family, just like it's not ours." Diana's voice hardened. "Perhaps Olivia could benefit from having children around, since she can't have her own." The silence that followed was electric. Then Alex spoke with a coldness I'd never heard before. "You've disrespected my wife for the last time? Alex! For years, I've watched you and Sophia treat Olivia like an enemy. The stalking, the sabotage attempts at our wedding, and now this. It ends today. But family? Olivia is my family. Anyone who can't respect her has no place in my life." Diana began sobbing, theatrical wails I'd heard before. Alex was unmoved. "Goodbye, Mom." He hung up, then turned to me with clear eyes. "I'm sorry it took me so long." Michael called an hour later. To my surprise, he apologized to me directly. "I've enabled Diana's behavior for decades," he admitted. "I'm sorry you've borne the brunt of it." 3 days later, our doorbell rang while Alex was at work. Through the security cameras we'd installed, I saw Diana and Sophia standing on our porch. I called Alex immediately, then answered through the doorbell speaker. "I'm not letting you in." "We need to talk to Alex," Sophia shouted. "You've poisoned him against his family." Diana leaned toward the camera. "We know you're controlling him, Olivia. This isn't over." "You're being recorded right now," I informed them calmly. "If you don't leave, we'll file for a restraining order." Alex arrived home just as they were returning to their car. I watched from the window as he confronted them in the driveway. "This is my decision," he stated firmly. "Mine, not Olivia's." "She's turned you against us," Diana wailed. "No, you did that yourselves. Leave now or I'm calling the police." They left. We haven't heard from them since. Michael visits regularly now. He finally left Diana after 40 years of manipulation. "I should have done it decades ago," he told us over dinner last month. The spare bedroom we refused to give to Sophia is now painted a soft yellow. Next week, we meet with an adoption agency. A new chapter beginning just as the toxic one finally closes. Last week, a letter arrived from Diana. We returned it unopened. Some bridges should remain burned,